In every other place in your life, you want to bring order, but guns are the outlier for you. You want to ban drag show readings to children.
To minors, yes.
Why?
Why?
What are you protecting?
Because the government does have a responsibility to protect.
I'm sorry?
The government does have a responsibility in certain instances to protect children.
What's the leading cause of death amongst children in this country? And I'm going to give you a hint. It's not drag show readings to children. It's firearms. More than cancer, more than car accidents. And what you're telling me is you don't mind infringing free speech to protect children from this amorphous thing that you think of. But when it comes to children that have died, you don't give a flying to stop that, because that shall not be infringed.
I strongly suggest watching the unedited version of that clip on social media if you can find it. That, of course, was Jon Stewart, the one and only Jon Stewart, calling out the dangerous, hypocritical, backwards logic and, frankly, false priorities of today's GOP, as only he can. The other guy in that clip is Oklahoma State Senator Nathan Dam. He's one of many Republicans who support legislation to limit drag shows in Oklahoma, but not legislation to make guns safer, which would actually make kids and everyone else safer. But nowhere is that hypocrisy any clearer than it is in the state of Florida, where a raft of proposed laws would transform how Florida educates children. Those new laws include, as the Washington Post reports, quote, requiring teachers to use pronouns matching children's sex as assigned at birth, eliminating college majors in gender studies, nixing diversity efforts at universities and job protections for tenured faculty, strengthening parents' ability to veto K-12 class materials, and extending a ban on teaching about gender and sexuality from 3rd grade to 8th grade. Joining our coverage, Democratic Congresswoman Lois Frankel of Florida. She served as a member of the Gun Violence Prevention Task Force. David Jolly is also with us. Congresswoman, I start with you. First, I ask this question of everybody from Florida who has him as their governor. What should people know about Ron DeSantis?
Well, first, very good to be with you, Nicolle, and I see David Jolly. I used to serve on a committee with David. Hello, David. First, Nicolle, just to let you know, I've lived here in this state over 50 years. I raised my son here. My grandchildren are being brought up here. And I can tell you, I am very frightened for them, for the women of this state, and anybody who does not look or think like Ron DeSantis, because he is an autocratic bully. He ran to drain the swamp, and yet he's appointed some 250 donors to every political post he can find, mostly very right-wing thinkers. So if you want to be free in this state, and that's, I think, is his message, you're only free if you agree with him.
And how, what are the contours of the battle in the state? I mean, it seems that he has some political, and again, jump in if I have any of this wrong, but it seems like he's taking some political capital he earned for keeping the state open during the pandemic and converting it to these hard right extremist agendas that are not as popular with an entire electorate, especially in a state like Florida. Do I have that right? And do you is it all about his national run for president in 24?
Well, definitely he's in a contest with people like the governor of Texas to see who can be more right-wing and autocratic. Yeah. But keep in mind, 70,000 people died of COVID in this state. We do have sunshine. We have a beautiful climate here. We have beautiful natural resources, low employment like the rest of the country, and very low taxes. So that's what's made Florida so popular. All that was done way before Ron DeSantis became governor. And keep in mind this last election, which he did win overwhelmingly, a lot of it was because Democrats got outspent in this election by hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. Still, I have to say, when I read the pundits, they call him a front runner for president or for the Republican nominee, and that just really scares me. And I really, truly believe that when the people of America knows who he is, what he's about, and what he's doing to this state, this man will never be president.
You know, and people use the word autocratic with Ron DeSantis very carefully and very accurately. I mean, his visions for treating businesses, his war with Disney, is very much out of Viktor Orban's playbook. His approach to the press and getting bloggers to register if they're going to write about him, again, another tactic from an autocratic leader's toolkit. Where does that leave him in terms of his support in the state? Do you think he'll launch nationally in weakened political standing?
Well, you know, it's a tough question for me because my constituent here in Palm Beach County is Donald Trump. So I'm almost looking forward to seeing them battle it out. But let's just start with the banning of books.
Yeah.
Teachers, librarians are now threatened with jail if they put the wrong book in front of a child. It's so scary that in one of our counties, they have removed books about Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks, Roberta Clemente, Anne Frank. I could go on and on. That's what it's come to. We have a governor who is purging school boards. He's firing college presidents. He's putting people in charge of the college boards with his political cronies who donated a lot of money to him. He's gone so far as to take probably one of our leading, most liberal-thinking colleges called New College in Sarasota, fired the president, put in a crony, gave him a $700,000 salary, and we're going to watch that school probably turn from some very progressive thinking to the most conservative. And here is what he wants to bring to this state. And that's why it's so scary for our children. He's trying to indoctrinate the children of this state and make this the right wing, I say the right wing gun-toting area or state of this country. And I guess I should add, he's also promoting now an open carry law. So we'll have people walking the streets with their guns, banning the books.
It's such an alarming picture and so out of the mainstream of American thought. David Jolly has a brand new piece out about what you, Congresswoman, are describing. I think of them as two tarantulas in a bowl, the Trump versus DeSantis primary. I want to read some of that to our viewers. We have to sneak in a quick break. We will all be right back. We are back with Congresswoman Lois Frankel and former Congressman David Jolly. David, this from NPR, quote, with his efforts to control even local policies, he's left behind the commitment to limited government he once had as a member of the Freedom Caucus. Former Congressman David Jolly says it's a lesson he took from Donald Trump. Quote, what Donald Trump brought to the party was to really crush that orthodoxy of small government and instead say the ends justify the means. And so whatever it takes to achieve conservative results. It doesn't matter if it takes big government, Jolly says. To DeSantis, it doesn't even matter if courts have said it's unconstitutional. That really is the path he's following.
He is a big government governor, but he is still lying and suggesting he is a less government governor. You know, you mentioned the political capital he got from keeping Florida open. That in itself is a lie. It is an identity he has projected. Ron DeSantis closed the beaches, the restaurants, the bowling alleys, and the nightclubs, and he issued an executive order asking all Floridians to limit their movement. He did not keep Florida open like he says he does. The now leader of the vaccine hesitancy movement got the vaccine himself and rushed the vaccine to his highest dollar contributors. And then you move to whether or not he is truly less government, and he's not. Look, it is not the role of government to regulate gender identity and gender fluidity. It's a basic premise of less government and the left's embrace of personal freedom. It is not the role of limited government or of a limited government to allow gun violence to perpetuate across the state and risk harm to our kids. He is doing that. And now his attacks on the press, I know we were talking in the previous segment about this, Nicole. Yeah. It will be his law in Florida that gets tested by the Supreme Court. His new law will unleash the plaintiff's bar to go after the press, requiring no financial contribution of the plaintiff themselves. And the most dangerous part, his law would say, under the law, that an anonymous source is presumed to be lying. And the press that reports based on an anonymous source is risking defamation. This is a dangerous big government governor. He went from House Freedom Caucus to big government governor in Florida, Trump apologist to Trump challenger, and he has created an identity that is false. And it will be up to the Republican contenders for the GOP nomination to crack that persona that he's established.
That is such an important point you've just made about what may end up being the test case. Let's dig into that a little more later this week. David Jolly and Congresswoman Lois Frankel, thank you so much for spending some time with us today.